Most people think arguments are won by being louder, smarter, or faster. They're wrong. Arguments are rarely won by logic alone. They are won by emotional control, psychological positioning, and who controls the frame of the conversation. That's the brutal truth. Because the moment an argument starts, two battles begin at the same time. One is about facts, and the other is about power. And in most cases, the person who controls the emotional atmosphere ends up controlling the outcome. That's why some people can be technically right and still lose, while others can be calm, strategic, and almost impossible to corner. So today, we're exposing 7 psychological tricks to win any argument. And trust me, the 7th one is the move that instantly flips the entire power dynamic. Even if the other person came in aggressive, once you learn this, you'll never argue the same way again. The first trick is simple, but deadly. Never react first. The moment someone raises their voice, interrupts, mocks, or tries to provoke you, your first instinct will be to defend yourself immediately. That is exactly where weak people lose. Because the first person who becomes emotional usually becomes easier to control. The strongest move is to pause. Let them finish. Let the silence breathe for 1 second longer than feels comfortable. Then respond slowly. This does 2 things instantly. It makes them feel their own aggression more clearly. And it makes you look harder to destabilize. In arguments, calmness is not softness. Calmness is social dominance. The person who cannot be emotionally rushed forces the other person to start fighting themselves. Be honest. When arguments happen, what ruins you more, anger or over-explaining? Comment anger or explaining. That answer exposes your weak spot immediately. The second trick is never defend everything. This is where most people sabotage themselves. Someone throws 5 accusations at them, and they start responding to all 5. Huge mistake. The moment you try to defend every single point, you surrender the frame. Now you're chasing their agenda, their structure, their rhythm. Instead, pick the core issue and ignore the noise. If someone says 10 things, find the one thing that actually matters and pin the conversation there. This instantly changes the dynamic. Why? Because chaotic arguers rely on overload. They want you scattered, emotional, jumping from point to point. But when you reduce the argument to one central issue, their drama loses oxygen. Strong people don't fight on every battlefield. They choose the one battlefield that wins the war. That alone makes you harder to manipulate, harder to trap, and much harder to embarrass in front of others. The third trick is ask questions instead of throwing punches. This is one of the most powerful psychological reversals in any argument. Instead of instantly proving your point, force them to expose theirs. Ask, "What exactly do you mean by that?" Or can you explain what evidence you're basing that on? Or even more dangerously, so your point is, why is this so effective? Because many people don't come into arguments with structure. They come in with emotion, assumptions, and ego. And the moment you calmly ask them to clarify, they begin feeling pressure. Now they must organize their thinking. Now they must defend their logic. Now they must carry the burden of coherence. And if their position is weak, they often collapse under their own contradictions. Questions don't just gather information. In the right hands, they expose weakness without looking aggressive. And that makes you look powerful without looking desperate. The fourth trick is control your tone more than your words. This is where most people underestimate psychology. In arguments, people remember how you made them feel more than the exact sentence you used. You can say the right thing in the wrong tone and lose, or say something simple in the right tone and dominate the room. A calm, low-energy, steady tone creates authority. A shaky, rushed, defensive tone creates doubt, even if your logic is perfect. That's why some people sound right even when they're not. Their nervous system stays composed. Their pace stays measured. Their voice never chases approval. This is social perception psychology. People unconsciously attach credibility to emotional stability. So if you want to win more arguments, stop obsessing only over better words. Start mastering the delivery, because a controlled tone can make average logic feel sharp, while emotional leakage can make sharp logic look weak. The fifth trick is name the tactic they're using. This is where arguments become dangerous. For them, if someone interrupts constantly, say, "You keep interrupting," instead of answering. If they attack your reaction instead of your point, say, "You're avoiding the issue and focusing on my tone." If they keep shifting topics, say, "Notice how the subject changes every time we get close to the real point." The moment you calmly label the tactic, you expose the game, and once the game is exposed, it becomes much harder for them to keep playing it. This is why manipulators hate emotionally aware people, because emotionally aware people don't just hear words, they detect patterns. If you've ever argued with someone who kept twisting the topic until you forgot what started the argument, comment facts. Because the next trick is the one that makes even aggressive people suddenly lose momentum. The sixth trick is make them repeat themselves. This sounds small. It's not. If someone says something disrespectful, irrational, or emotionally loaded, don't rush to attack it. Instead, calmly say, "Repeat that," or say that again clearly. This move is powerful because many people rely on speed, tone, and emotional momentum. They say something sharp and hope it lands before anyone slows it down. But the moment you ask them to repeat it, you force their nervous system to confront their own words consciously. Now they either soften it, which proves they know it was weak, or they repeat it, which makes them look more exposed. Either way, you gain leverage. Slowing people down is one of the fastest ways to remove false confidence. This is why emotionally disciplined people often look intimidating in arguments. They don't chase, they don't rush, they make the other person sit inside their own nonsense. The seventh trick, the darkest and most powerful one of all, is be fully willing to end the argument. This is the move that changes everything, because the person who needs to win often loses the most. The person desperate to be understood becomes easy to bait, easy to exhaust, easy to drag into emotional mud. But the moment you can say, calmly and without anger, "This conversation is no longer productive. We're done," the entire power dynamic flips. Why? Because now your self-respect is stronger than your need for validation. And that is terrifying to people who expected to control you through conflict. Remember this brutal truth. Not every argument should be won with words. Some are won by refusing to keep donating your energy. The ability to leave without begging for understanding is one of the highest forms of psychological power. Because once someone realizes they cannot trap you in endless emotional chaos, they stop seeing you as easy. Here's what most people never understand. Arguments are not just about being right. They are about whether you can stay clear under pressure, whether you can resist emotional traps, whether you can hold your frame while someone else tries to drag you into theirs, reacting first, defending everything, speaking too much, sounding unstable, missing manipulation, and needing the last word. These are the habits that make people lose even when the facts are on their side. But once you learn to pause, narrow the issue, ask questions, control tone, expose tactics, slow the momentum, and walk away when necessary, your entire presence changes. You stop looking like someone who argues and start looking like someone who cannot be easily shaken. So now I want the truth. Which of these 7 tricks do you need the most right now? Staying calm, focusing on one issue, asking better questions, controlling tone, exposing tactics, slowing them down, or walking away? Drop the number in the comments. And if this video sharpened your mind, subscribe right now, because the next video is about the exact phrases powerful people use when someone tries to disrespect, manipulate, or verbally dominate them. And once you learn those lines, you'll start winning battles before they even begin. Miss that one. And you'll keep entering arguments with facts, while other people keep beating you with psychology.